of Premier League football. We saw a newly promoted team who haven't been around the Premier League blocks for a couple of seasons now. They managed to get European spot on the last day, beating the mighty Chelsea, at Stadium of Light. We're going to start off with that one first because that's Daniel team. He was going through it. He was living it during that game as well. Sunderland clip Chelsea at Stadium of Light to get a European spot. What a trophy.
Yeah. Sunderland have a brilliant season. They make so many changes over the last summer, and I think if there's a promoted club that come up in the Premier League, that is how you do it. You go out and back the coach, make a lot of signings. Nottingham Forest did it a couple seasons ago. You get what I'm saying, and they're able to stay in the league. I think Nottingham Forest almost get Champions League last year as well. You get me? They make it in the semi-final of the Europa League. So that being said, Sunderland have a brilliant season. They bring in Shaka, experienced player, but on the other side, Chelsea, just a horrible season, go to a horrible season. You get me? Horrible ending. I think everything started from when they sacked Maraska. You get me? So I just think that the season was wrapped up from there. The appointment of Liam Rosanero, he was out of his depth from the first day he walked through the office. He just never know what he was doing, and a lot of these players need to look their head in shame. I think it's gonna be a lot of ins and out this summer. But I just think that as a fan, thank God the season ended. You see me? So I just think that it's just one of them seasons. You get me? United was terrible last year, and they never get no Europe. It come like it's basically we are United switch place this season. You get me? So I just one of those
I
things, man.
think the last time Chelsea play in the Premier League without any European football, I think they won it. I think
Yeah,
that
under
was
Conte,
under
under
Conte
Conte.
as well.
Yeah,
I think Jose Mourinho was previously before that campaign where Chelsea finished in the bottom half of the league table as well.
yeah.
So yeah. So other one out of the block as well, where I really want to go as well. Relegated the relegation zone. West Ham won 3-0 at the London Stadium very late as well. They came to the party in that game, but Tottenham Hotspur with João Falfina, a Portuguese player who didn't get picked into the Portuguese World Cup squad, found himself in the box and to get a goal as well in the 43rd minute, just before first half closeout. Massive, massive goal. And Everton, they have a shout to be playing European football as well, but they came
They
in
fell
that game
off.
like they on the beach. I don't know if vacation come a bit too early for Everton, but I know
Yeah,
David Moyes were really talking about that. You would love West Ham, to stay up as much as he went through hell coaching that football club, especially the last 4 or 5 months of him there. So again, you'd have had some attachment there, especially winning
yeah.
a European Cup, the Conference League there, quite a few seasons are back. So again, you would have preferred more favor at West Ham than a Tottenham Hotspur, but Everton just didn't turn up on the day. I don't know, but the last 15 minutes, they really came to the party as well. They really started to play some very good football. But Tottenham managed to hold on. The keeper, he was excellent. I think, that same keeper played that game in the Champions League. I don't remember if it was the Atletico Madrid game where they substitute him. I think in the first half because of some bad errors. I think it was that Atletico Madrid game. And from there, he's like, this keeper seems like he has no future at the club. And looking at what he have done over the last couple of appearances for Tottenham Hotspur, he made some beautiful saves as well yesterday in that game. So good to see that Kevinski is back at the fold. I think he's a Ukrainian goalkeeper. Is he
Yeah,
a Ukrainian? So
yeah,
good to see that Kinski really I think I look at it his profile Antonin Kinski. He said that he's Czech Republic. Yeah, Czech Republic.
Czech
So
Republic.
yeah, he's
Mm.
he's from he's from Czech. But to see what Tottenham did, to fight the fight and to manage the escape on the final day, Did you have any hopes before a ball kick off in the Premier League that Tottenham might go down?
Yeah, I think I was watching both the Tottenham game and the Chelsea game, and my God, that game. If I was a Tottenham fan, I would have a nervous breakdown because Jesus Christ, man. Everton was trying. Like Everton was I was one point I was like, why is Everton playing so hard? It come like as you said, David might seem like he sent those players out there trying to win that game. Because I don't think Everton could have got Europe, but they were trying really hard to get something from that game. You get what I'm saying? I think I deserve it was falling on the floor at the last minute, but Tottenham finally able to get over the line. I think Tottenham have to do better this summer.
Hmm.
This is 2 seasons back to back. They finished down in the bottom half. They keep flirting around that relegation. They're gonna get bite. You get what I'm saying? So I think they have to do better this half season. Some of those players that have to go and they have to deserve it. Is they gonna be done there again? And never you flirt around Newcastle. One of the sleeping giant did got relegated before. You get what I'm saying? Aston Villa, a sleeping giant that just won the Europa League. They were in the championship. So you're never big to go down. You get what I'm saying? So let's see if they're gonna able to turn it around and start do better.
Yeah, when you look at teams now, since you have a third European trophy, right, the Conference League, it's more like teams have a much more leg room, especially teams from in England who have so much money. We saw Crystal Palace first time in Europe. They're into the final. They will play Rayo Vallecano. A team that as well over in Spain that who don't even have a training ground for their own sake to practice and as well couldn't play a few games at their current stadium as well. Have to play away at Leganes, use that ground as their home field as well. So we look at Freiburg first time in these big tournaments in a final as well. So I think with Tottenham at Spurs, we saw what Brighton have done. Sunderland is in Europe as well. Arsenal, they're one of their biggest rival in the Premier League, managed to get 85 points this campaign. That is more than what Tottenham have got over the last two campaigns. They finished like what 41, 42, this season, and then last campaign. I know they finished on 38 points. So you're looking at less than 80 points. Yeah, they're looking at around
Yeah.
79 points. So 79 points in around the last two campaigns, that's very poor. That is very poor, of Tottenham Hotspur. So this current season coming up 26-27, they must recruit better, they must do better. And also they must stick with a manager and give him the backing. They need to clear out some of these bad players. Look at the Koulibaly, the Tell. I've never think of these players would have been a Tottenham player. Yeah, none of these players could make that famous Tottenham team that went to the Champions League final, with
Yeah.
Liverpool, under Mauricio Pochettino. But looking at the other side of where we looking at Aston Villa. The reason why I want to touch on this game, Leon Bailey played 90 minutes. Very surprising. He started in his game. I think he looked a bit bright in some part of the game, but City, it was just a regular game for them. Play with
Yeah.
so many fringe players.
It was on
We
the
saw
beach.
we saw three bodies were about to leave that no, looking at the City game where Pep Guardiola and also John Stones, Bernardo Silva, very good players, leaving the football club as well, including the legendary coach Pep Guardiola, who brought so many trophies to this football club as well. Bernardo would have won and swept up majority of those titles under Pep Guardiola as well at Manchester City. Um, City is going through a rebuilding phase. Continue that process. It's going to even be a much more tougher job, knowing that Pep Guardiola will not be the manager coming, for the next campaign. I mean, what can we expect from this City team going to the next couple of seasons coming up in a new, manager?
I was watching the highlights of it. You can see Bernardo Silva was coming out crying. He was very emotional. They get what I'm saying. A club legend. Pep have really changed the game in England. You get what I'm saying. He did like you name all of it. You get what I'm saying? Big respect to Pep. I think the Premier League gonna miss him. And I think it's a new era of new coaches coming in. I think Mikel Arteta is also right above that over everybody right now. Because he won his title. But City. I think Pep have chose the right man, to lead them going forward. Enzo Maresca. I think Enzo Maresca, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's a good coach. I think you remember when Alex Ferguson was leaving Manchester United, and he basically tell United, say, give it to David Moyes. I think David Moyes, David Moyes couldn't able to get control the pressure at United. So I'm wondering if it's the same thing is going to happen to Enzo Maresca. I don't doubt his quality as a coach. It's just the pressure, because City every season is all about winning the title. You know what I'm saying? So, big up to Pep. I think Pep deserve. I would love to see him in international. I don't know. I would want to see him at a World Cup. Maybe for Spain. I would love to see him take up an international job. Something different. But it's gonna be a massive rebuild for City next season. It's gonna be very weird not seeing Pep on that sideline.
Yeah, looking at the European spots, outside of the Champions League spot, Bournemouth, will be playing Champions League as well, knowing that
No,
Aston Villa,
Europa League.
Europa League.
Yeah, they didn't get
So,
Champions League. It's Europa League.
so what about sixth place?
Six
Because
players didn't get it. Six
the
players didn't get
coefficient
it.
points,
Yeah, they didn't
so
get
it
it.
will go to Germany or Spain.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ah, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so looking at the European spots, in Premier League, Bournemouth, Sunderland, Europa League, Brighton, in the Conference League as well. Brentford, Chelsea, Fulham, Newcastle, Everton were very close to secure a European spot as well. Which one of those three teams, Bournemouth, Sunderland, Brighton, knowing that, I mean, Brighton would be the one that you expect to be right up there, but Sunderland though, my goodness, we touched on that earlier on. European football will be coming at Stadium at Light next season. You expect, Sunderland will be under a lot of pressure in terms of still manage to compete in Europe, because look at what Forest did. Struggle in the relegation. Crystal Palace as well had a wonderful campaign leading up to that European spot of last campaign as well. Any expectation we could see that Sunderland be dipping into the market again to sign some big name players, trying to compete in the Premier League, and maybe this could bring a lot of distraction to them of take their eyes a bit off the prize of staying up is not really the priority, but want to go deep in Europe.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of problem for these small teams in Europe next season. They're gonna drop like fly. Remember last Brighton went in the Europa League, I think Conference League or Europa League before, and
Yeah,
they struggle.
with Zerbi, yeah.
They struggle. Newcastle went in the Champions League. They struggle. So the small teams is always gonna struggle. And I look at it. I look at it. They're gonna have to. I know they're gonna get a little. They're gonna get the investment from the Premier League and also from this competition. But I'm worried for the quality of the football next season, because
Yeah.
that Thursday night, Sunday night, Thursday night, Sunday night, it take away a lot of qualities.
So
You get
what
what I'm
what would
saying?
you say about a team like Brentford before match day 38? They could have easily surpassed Liverpool if they would
Mm.
have won that game they played on match day 37 versus Crystal Palace, again that they drew 2-2, and knowing that Liverpool would have been the last game and the final day could have easily make it to the Champions League, but they found themselves outside of the automatical qualifying spot for European positions. Still want to
Because
say Keith Andrews, has very good campaign, especially moving away from the Thomas Frank era, to the physio to be coaching the team. Many people had Sunderland, Brentford, and Wolverhampton to go down, even include Burnley as well, to be fighting massively amongst the drop zone.
the problem now, what happened with Brentford? Brentford only won one game in 10 matches, and they have a lot of draws. So I think Brentford kind of fall off the thing a little bit. One win in 10 match and expect to get Europa League. No, but Keith Andrews, it was a very good coach. I think for me, otherwise than Arteta this season or Una Emery, I think I would have given him the premier one of the standard coaches
Yeah.
because Brentford last their coach, what's his name that went to Tottenham?
Thomas Frank
Thomas Frank, and they lost Bremo, they lost
and
Wissa.
Burma. Yeah.
So they lost a lot of players, and they're still able to make it because they if you when the season start, everybody have them to go down and then make it in the top five. I think it's still a success. I know they did it. They're probably very upset they didn't make it to Europe, but I think it's a good season. They can build on, but I think they're gonna lose a lot of players again this summer. I think Thiago. I think some team might come
Yeah.
in for
Yeah.
Thiago. You get what I'm saying? But they have this thing where they're definitely able to pull in a good striker,
Yeah.
over the years.
Um, Want to piggyback on zoning, before we move on from the Premier League teams. West Ham, they finally going back down into the championship. I remember when West Ham was playing in the championship when Upton Park was around. No, it's more of a gigantic stadium, the London Stadium. They were promised to be playing European games. They were promised to be signing elite players, attracting players, knowing that their club located in London. But it's all going back down. We saw the likes of Jared Bowen coming from All City. All City got promoted as well, over the weekend, beating Middlesbrough 1-0 in the playoff final as well at Wembley. They have Pablo coming from the Portuguese league, Castellanos, coming from Italy. Fernandez didn't make the Portuguese team, but quality player as well. Diouf, first season in the Premier League. Disasi going back to Chelsea. Mavropanos as well could easily, play across Europe top competition. Somerville, bright young prospect. There's only probably like one or two players that looking like they will go down with this West Ham team. It look like it will be a big departure season for West Ham in the Premier League. Going down to the championship of sales of Jared Bowen will be on top of a lot of people transfer list as well of Premier League clubs will be sniffing around. I saw even reports that United might be looking at that angle of how will he manage to play in our setup as well, if the coach will fancy him, if he's going to suit what Manchester United need. So Kyle Walker, Peters, who saw him play and went down already with Southampton. I don't know. What says you around the departures, for this West Ham team of players that they need to hold on to and players that, like there will be no task, for them to hold on these players because they are just too good, for the championship.
Them always say the grass is not always greener on the other side. You remember when David Moyes win that Conference League for them, and they was so upset with this part that was football at the London Stadium. I know they're going down. I know they're gonna have a fire sale. You get what I'm saying? With all the top players. You get me? I don't think this team is a good. I don't think this team is a bad team. I just think they appoint a bad coach, Graham Potter, at the
But
wrong time.
coaches after David Moyes, yeah,
And
patches of
so
coach.
Lopetegui. They also
Lopetegui was,
I think it's I don't
yeah,
know
I
why
think that was,
this guy keep on getting a job and losing. He's
yeah,
just not a good coach. You get what I'm
was-
saying? And so uh I would take I would take a couple players from them. I would take the left back, Doof. I like him. A very excited player, and also Bowen, very hit and miss player, but a very good backup you could have in your team. Someone can come off the bench and give you
yeah,
something. And Fernandez, I think a lot of people gonna definitely want Fernandez for sure. You
Mateos,
get
yeah.
I think a lot of people definitely. So I don't know, man. West Ham is just gonna have to do a rebuild. I think West Ham is one of those small club, big small club in the league. So Chelsea don't have a good record there at the London Stadium, so I would not missing them. I would be not missing going to the London Stadium. I don't know if you know the London Stadium is a very narrow field, very narrow football field, and and when they sit back behind the ball, it's very hard to break down them, break down that team. Very hard, especially when David Moyes was there. It's a horrible team to play against, but I think they will be back up because they have the financial to get back right back up. So let's see how it goes. But the grass is not always green on the other side. West Ham fans.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember, everyone were beating down that door of getting David Moyes out of our club. It's
Yeah,
not good enough. The football is yes, the football was terrible, but he brought a bit of joy. With that style of play. He brought Conference League. He constantly qualified for Europe as well. David Moyes. So you're looking at it where he's not managing a football club anymore, and he goes off, manage Everton. Everton, suddenly challenging again a team that a few years, and some very bad coaches, bad
they were in
appointment.
the they
They were
was in
in
the
the
trenches
relegation.
too.
You get what I'm saying? So I remember Frank Lampard saved them as well. So there were some very dark moments in around Everton times before David Moyes took over. So you're looking at West Ham, they managed, to survive last campaign, but this time around, I mean, the Sankey, sank their way. And looking at it, where I think, look, Tati Castellanos, the Argentinian, I think they should make every effort of try to keep him. I know it's going to be difficult, but
It's
I
gonna be
think,
difficult.
I think with him playing in the championship, he will definitely score goals. And what you really need from your number nines, if you're going to, get promoted to the Premier League in from the championship, you need players that are going to score 20, 25 plus goal in that division. It's very tough as well. Somerville, he went down there as well, played for Leeds as well. He scored a 20 plus goal in that campaign, helping Leeds getting promoted back to the Premier League. Jared Bowen almost scored 20 goals as well for All City in his last time playing in the championship. So I think, they should keep Tati, Pablo. I think with him having really hit in the Premier League, he will definitely be a very good prospect in the championship. And I think there's another player that they brought in, that young French kid. His name is M. He played in the midfield from Monaco. Is it Magasa? A player like that as well. They
Yeah,
need to keep a player like that. They have a very talently African kid named Kante. He's a very good prospect as well. But looking at it, it's going to be a huge summer for West Ham. It's going to be a
yeah.
big, big summer. Big, the sale out and this and getting transfer in is going to be huge. So I think at this moment they're probably on the phone of who they can ship out and get some big money,
Because
from them as well.
because it's such a huge turnaround for a team would never really plan for for their championship, and then you get relegated. There's a lot of contract gonna have to rip up. There's a lot of people are gonna have to move on, and it's also, I think it's unfortunate, but Castellano, I don't think West Ham gonna able to keep that guy. He's a good quality Premier League striker. I could see so many teams sniffing around him, even
Bournemouth.
team from Europe. I could definitely see Dortmund could be a good destination for him because they're gonna be in Europe, So I just don't see West Ham keeping that quality player. I just don't see it.
I look, to be honest, Jared Bowen, Mateus Fernandez, Somerville, Diouf, these players will be flying off the shelf at West Ham.
I can't even I can't even Willis that low like them. I forgot to bring them back up. Calvin
I
Wilson.
see the keeper, Hermansen, might possibly, a young Danish goalkeeper as well, might possibly stay,
Yeah.
coming from Leicester City. Probably see him probably go down with them as well. So I just think that with players that currently in the squad, there's just only a few bodies that will survive and play in the championship. They will sell a lot of their players this summer window as well. All right, so looking over our shoulder as well, moving away from England, but